Okay, hey YouTube, Todd here again, some guitar guy. First off, and as always, thanks for watching. So, yeah, another video, another end-to-end ride video. This time on South Carolina Primary 93, as we see. And there's our route from Easley to Clemson and several towns along the way. Basically following the railroad track to our right, yeah, but and we have sound this time, right? Isn't that awesome? But the main purpose of the voiceover here is I want to talk about my recent experience and thoughts after having completed the MSF or Motorcycle Safety Foundation Basic Rider course. So whether you ride or are considering riding, yeah, you're probably familiar with the MSF, especially if you're a new rider or a aspiring rider. So, but my target audience is not really you guys, because you already get the value of the MSF and taking the course and getting your endorsement and all that. It's not what I would call a cheap per se course, but I think there's a lot of value in it. In US, it's going to hover right around $300, maybe $275. But the value, I mean, you get a range bike, a range, classroom materials, and a trained rider coach for basically 2.5 days, usually 2 full days on the range, and then Friday evening after work is classroom, and you may have some pre-work we did some pre-work to do in the form of a 5-hour long video to watch. But yeah, that I'm really targeting people like me, experienced, quote unquote experienced riders, and we'll just use the MSF working definition. They consider an experienced rider to be someone with a year or more riding experience. So an experienced rider, but you haven't taken the MSF. Okay, so yeah, that's a really wide, broad spectrum of folks. So hey, that puts us in the same category as like MotoGP guys, and even though we should realize there is a big difference between me and the MotoGP guys for sure. But so we'll kind of put the world-class people in their own, we'll forget about them for a little bit. This is like the mortals, the rest of us. And as for me, yeah, I am 58 and started riding along about the same time the MSF was founded, around 73, so I was in elementary school. I did have a 19-year hiatus away from riding, but still, what is that math? I don't know. Probably starting to push 40 years total riding experience. So yeah, I'm definitely in that. Been riding it more than a year, but and had not had the MSF, had not taken the MSF until a couple of weeks ago. Did I learn anything? If so, what recommendations, thoughts, all that kind of stuff. So that's the point of the video, and the target audience. So yeah, the kind of the punchline there to go ahead. Yeah, I rate the course 5 out of 5 stars. I can't recommend it any higher. It was the curriculum and the range work, all that stuff. The whole course is data driven, and that's huge. Okay, they take NHTSA crash data and try to come up with a plan to reduce motorcycle crashes and fatalities. And that's a pretty straightforward mission, and probably the best way to accomplish it is to see how wrecks are happening. The instructors are MSF trained and certified. They were very professional. All the material and videos extremely professionally done. The range and the exercises, although at first you may kind of wonder why am I doing this, but they're progressively harder. Like you start off just duck walking or power walking, and then your last exercises are like threshold braking, and it's progressive and formulated with the parts of the exercises are set up for the specific DMV skills test for whatever state you're in. So you'll use parts of I think it's like 15 exercises you complete, 15 or 16, something like that. And then you take your skills test, and if everything goes well, in my case, I already had my endorsement, so that was not a factor. But if you need your endorsement, then there you go. You have it. Take it to DMV, and bam, you're out the door. So that's my riding experience. Let me just kind of break that down a little bit more. Learned to ride, elementary school. Dad brought home a Honda 50 because I'm sure I bugged the parents and on. But that's what all the kids did in my cohort, right? We lived in a subdivision, big yards, like I think an acre and a half or so, and all the kids had something: a dirt bike, mini bike, go-kart. Some kids had all three. We got out of school and went riding, right? That's what we did in all summer, and then swapping off with neighbors, and or if you had a friend come over or something, that's just what we did. And I learned my motorcycle training, if you will. Dad unloaded it, and it's like, showed me how to start it, showed me the kill switch, the kickstart, showed me all that, and the choke, and here's the throttle, here's the brakes, here's the shifter, twist it this way to go faster, the other way to go slower, and don't hit anything. and he did bring home, that was one thing that was common really with all of us, was helmets. I really don't remember any kid riding without a helmet, but he brought home this big oversized white bell open-faced helmet. I have a picture somewhere I need to dig out, but like a little alien child with this giant head, and took off, and around the house, the first lap, came around completing the first lap, target fixated, didn't know what that was then, but a little stick tree, a little sapling, just couldn't tear my eyes off of it. I remember thinking, don't hit that, don't hit it, don't hit it, and what happened? Well, I hit it, yeah. I must have veered at the last second, but it clipped the left handlebar, and down I went. Dad came running over, and I was okay. I was 7, 8 years old, in a little lightweight motorcycle, and on the grass. So brushed myself off, and first error, first trial, and first error, and that's the way we learned. Really, the MSF was just getting started then, and I'm sure the course has changed some over the years, but had never heard of the course of the MSF in the early 70s, and it would be on into my mid-20s before I learned of the course and wanted to take it then. So kind of, rode dirt bikes through high school at 18 or maybe 19, I think 18. I bought my first street bike. I would own a few, including that old Ironhead Sportster that got me hooked on Sportsters. And around my mid-20s, I heard of the MSF. And we had a loophole in our state. I'm sure others were similar, where you could. I got my permit at 18, by the way. But the loophole was you could indefinitely renew the permit. Now it was only good in state, but I hadn't gone out of state yet, and that was fine. That was fine with me. So you didn't have to take the dreaded DMV test, and it hurt a lot of horror stories, people dropping their bikes and, failing the test and all that at DMV. And then I wanted to go on and get my endorsement, not just have my permit, but was, intimidated by, I didn't want to go up there and drop my bike and look like an idiot and fail the test and, all that. And then I heard of the MSF course, and I'm like, that is the way to go. It's not cheap. I wouldn't say it's cheap, but around $275 to $300 currently US. But it is a great value, in my opinion, because you're on a range bike with a data-driven curriculum and trained coaches that it's designed to take you from zero to licensure in whatever that is, 20 some odd hours. It's kind of a no-brainer, really, in my opinion. But that's kind of just still getting started in life, and looking back, I should have made that more of a priority and budgeted and saved and actually taken that class. But we want everything now, right? The easy button. So what I did to get my license, I borrowed a work buddy's little street. I think it was a 175 Honda, for a couple of weeks, and just rode around. I think I went up to DMV and kind of tried to figure out what they would have you do, and read up as much as I could, and was fortunate enough to take and pass the DMV test the first time. So I didn't look like a complete idiot. And I shouldn't say that, because it is a fairly tight little course. Had I taken it on a big gold wing, I probably would have dropped it. But anyway, I did pass it, and kind of moved on, and would ride on up until about 2001, when we got the news that my oldest daughter was on her way to the world, and money never got any really better. It got worse, and I just could not afford an expensive want anymore. So the last bike I owned sold, and I wouldn't ride again for 19 years. I thought about getting another bike here and there, but it just was not a financial option. Well, time goes on, and ironically, the same daughter calls, now 19, and says, "Hey, Dad, I'm buying a motorcycle. Will you help me learn to ride?" And of course, my advice initially was, "Well, you need to take the MSF. That's the best advice I can give you." She's like, "Yeah, I know. I'm already enrolled in the class, but it's not for a couple of weeks. In the meantime, can you come over and show me some things?" And I'm like, was flattered and honored. And of course, I said, "Yeah," and did. And then, I'm thinking about this the whole time, like, well, what do I teach her? And how do I teach her or anyone to ride a motorcycle? Something that, it wasn't, but it seems to me now to be just like in the blood, like in the DNA. It's not, it's not in anybody's, but it had ridden for so long, it kind of, seemed to be that way. So I did start doing some research, a little bit of light research, what does the MSF teach, and then went over, and she did really great. She got both feet on the pegs within, I don't know, geez, it wasn't long, 15 minutes or so. You just have to learn to trust yourself and trust physics, right, and trust the bike. But it went on and took her MSF and passed it and has her motorcycle endorsement. And the plan was for us both to take the class. But by the time I registered, the class had already filled, and then to add insult to injury, one of the students who was a returning rider also quit the first day on the range. And I'm like, really? Because I could have been here. But that's what got my wheels turning again to return to riding. And once I swung a leg over her bike, it was a Honda CBR 250R. I rode it around her neighborhood to a church parking lot. It was a foregone conclusion. Then I had I didn't realize how much I missed riding until I rode again. And the whole drive home and searching Facebook, and finally ended up with the little Suzuki S40, which was a great little bike. But I digress. But I'll say this as far as the course, and you really need to hear this if you're an experienced rider. Don't think this is a gimme, okay? Now, it's going to be much easier for you if you don't have a 19-year layoff, right? But had I taken that course cold and not ridden in 19 years, I don't know that I would have passed it. I really don't. And I'll repeat that because, time, much shorter time span now. So I start riding. The girlfriend and I start riding, both on the Suzuki and then on the Hugger I have, and we both kind of quickly realize, not that we didn't before, but just, from the real world experience. And plus she wanted to ride her own bike. She had owned a bike before and ridden a little bit. So after, just a few trips on both of those bikes, I mean, they're small bikes. They're 60-inch wheelbase bikes. There's not much room to move around. We just kind of keep tripping over each other's feet on the pegs, and we're not big people. I'm 5'9" on a good day, about 185. She's not even 5 foot. I don't know, 110, I guess, pounds or so. The bikes will do it, and the bikes probably are more content than the people, right? They have plenty of power and suspension and all that kind of stuff, but they're just small. And we came to the conclusion that it would probably be more enjoyable for both of us and easier on the bikes if we just rode our own motorcycle. She didn't have one at the time. So for the last year or so, maybe even a year and a half, we've looked, and work is pretty much a hurricane. Every once in a while you walk in and it's not, and it's like, oh, this is the eye, we'll pay for this tomorrow. But working 50 and 60 hour weeks, it just doesn't leave time for much of anything. Finally, this year we just kind of committed to that, and we bought her a Harley Street 500, and that was the plan, is that we were both going to take the MSF, either the Harley flavor or the kind of generic MSF. And I don't mean that in a bad way at all, but Harley has their version, BMW does. There's kind of the generic, just straight MSF course. They're all the MSF. And we were able to do that just a couple of weekends ago. Amazingly, both got off work, but we work at the same place, and took the course. Now, to kind of further emphasize, this is not a gimme course. Now, we did work. She got her permit, and we've done a good bit of parking lot work, and even gotten her out in a little quiet neighborhood. Just circling, going around the block, basically. She has to retest, and as of this video, I think she had originally scheduled for today to retest, but work's still a hurricane. We might go a week, or even more sometimes, without getting her actually on the bike. And riding is, especially when you're a newer rider, it is a perishable skill. You may, I don't know, the first time I got on in 19 years, I still knew how to ride and, slip the clutch and shift and brake and accelerate and all that stuff. But it did feel, I don't know, unnatural, I guess, is maybe, or maybe that's a little too strong, but it definitely was not, oh yeah, like I just rode yesterday, or, an hour ago. So yeah, I think that hurt her, and to say, to go on and in her defense, she was not, there was 10 students, 2 did not pass the skills test, including her, and then a third, and this guy was that guy in a class. There's always one. He was that guy. He didn't do something. He passed the skills test, but he didn't do something administratively, so he didn't get his waiver either. So really, technically, best case scenario, it's an 80% pass rate. If you include him, it's only 70. And as far as I went, I already had, I think I was the only one that already had their endorsement. So for me, I don't have that pressure on me, right? I already have my endorsement. So if I blow everything, I still have my license. They don't take it away because I didn't pass that skills test or do the coursework. But had I taken that class after 19 years with only, either the little bit of parking lot work I did with my daughter, and we did that a couple of times before her MSF, in the same way with the girlfriend, which we actually did a good bit more, pre-work before she took the class. I don't know. Maybe 50-50 chance. I don't know. I go back and forth, and like the U-turns, that got a lot of people. I'm sure it would have gotten me. I don't know. It's not a gimme course. I guess take that for what it's worth, especially if you're a returning rider, or if you're a rider who has never worked on these low speed skills, and I never had. Now, after kind of the oh my God, what do I teach her moment with my daughter 3 years ago, and then really researching how the MSF works and the value, I guess, of these low speed skills in the last 3 years, I have done some. Now, I'm not gonna say I do these religiously every day, before and after, or before or after every ride. Probably should. That's a great practice. But there's also life. So yeah, but I have done some, and I've done enough. All right, so I was really glad to get around that guy in the truck. What were my big takeaways from the course? Academically, I think the biggest takeaway, and I just really didn't have a label or something to attach in my brain to this, but was ride like you're invisible. That really clicked and stuck and kind of brought a lot of things together. Now, and that's not the only thing, but I've also taught driver development, defensive driving, competition driving, police driving, and I've taken the Safety Council's DDC because it was a work requirement. I don't even know, a dozen times or something. So a lot of this that you'll see in the coursework, it was repetitive for me. So not a lot of that really, popped out. Like I already knew, motorcycles, up to 80% of their braking is on the front wheel, and could, attach that to real world riding experience. But riding like you're invisible, and it's something I was really already kind of doing. I just didn't have that label to hang my hat on. So now I do, and that really does make a difference in your strategies, right? Your just overall riding strategies or strategy. But yeah, I do, and I watch other drivers like a hawk. And ironically, on the return trip from this ride, coming through the last town, I was invisible to a car and really had to get hard on the brakes to get her slowed down to keep from T-boning the car that couldn't have pulled any more out in front of me. Never saw, well, the wife saw me because I was on her side. You could tell by her, eyes and mouth, but the old man, nope. Anyway, see, that was my biggest takeaway from the coursework. What about the exercises? Well, and this is a little unfair because, like I said, I have dedicated time to develop those low-speed skills. I'm certainly not an expert at them. I don't really want to be an expert at them. But if I do need to turn around, say on this 4-lane, or turn around on a 2-lane road, I want to have the confidence and skill to be able to do that. And now I can, whereas before practicing these, it maybe not quite as confident doing that. But my low speed skills improved, and of course, that's going to come from 2 days on the range doing nothing but low speed skills, U-turns in particular. And I kind of hate to admit this, but development of work in the friction zone. So all the other bikes that I've ridden recently, and I don't really remember about the other ones, but the Suzuki, the Hugger, and the R that I'm on now, the throttle is super sensitive. So it was really hard for me to just kind of lock that throttle into position and work the clutch and rear brake to do these tight U-turns and whatnot. Now, the Harley version, of course, we bought the girlfriend in the street thinking she would have an advantage, and then Harley changed. They discontinued the street in 2020, and now they're using the X350, which is a super fun little bike. Oh my God, I smiled the whole time riding that bike. But its throttle is not nearly as sensitive. It's the least sensitive of any motorcycle I've ridden, at least recently. So it is super easy to, on that bike, to pretty much not really lock, because you're not like locking your arm, but to set, I guess is a better word, to really set that throttle where you want it, and not have to be, oh, that's too much, too much power, not enough, too much, not enough, too much, not enough. But to really set that throttle and concentrate on the clutch and the rear brake. And yeah, the U-turns were a breeze on that bike. I mean, they really were. And they come with ABS. That was the first bike I'd ridden with ABS, and activated ABS on both the front and the rear. And I mean, they will stop on a dime. I don't know that I could outbrake ABS on that surface on a motorcycle. Probably not. But so ABS, that was another takeaway. Big believer in ABS on a motorcycle now. So if you've not ridden a bike with ABS, then that was a great opportunity. So friction zone, and that just really translated into everything else, really just making everything else, your life a whole lot easier. You could kind of count the U-turns, I suppose. Is it kind of clicking? But that was because of the kind of mastering or whatever, having the big aha moment for the friction zone. ABS and threshold braking. Those were probably my biggest takeaways. And I'll say this, another thing about these little X350s, Harley says they have a 50-degree leaning, and I'll have to agree with that, because these are pretty vicious. We're in Clemson now, vicious speed bumps, and I'm coming up off the seat. I don't imagine they have much of a problem with speeding now, but I forgot what I was saying. Watching the video. But oh yeah, the leaning. You hear the term chicken strips, right? It's all over YouTube. These class bikes had no chicken strips. And they brought out a couple of streets. The girlfriend actually did get to ride a street because the X350s sit a couple inches taller. So, in her being short, she didn't get to ride a street. So that ended up being to her advantage. Now, I will say this too. Why did she have to retest? And again, like I said, this is not a gimme. One student had to retest because she dropped her bike during the test, and that was, or during an exercise, so that was an automatic failure. Girlfriend did not, fortunately, or even really come close to dropping her bike, but she is very conservative on accelerating and braking. She still wants to kind of power walk. She's not still 100% sure that you can just accelerate and go, and basically in one motion pick your feet up, and then braking. And that's not something we really had time to work on pre-MSF, was getting her more assertive with the brakes. We did work on braking and, stopping at a point, but not like quick stops or emergency type braking. So that's really what got her. And if you haven't worked on this stuff and you've been riding for a while, yeah, will you learn anything? Yeah, if you want to. If you're the guy that, I've been riding for 30 years, they ain't gonna teach me nothing. Well, you know what? You're right. So don't take the class, because you're going to be that guy in the class and take away from everybody else, the rest of us, the mortals who want to learn. You're going to take away from them. For the rest of us, yeah, you will learn, and you may be surprised how much you really learn and how much you improve. And I would probably advise, go out in the parking lot if you haven't practiced these low speed turns. Low speed work, the slow race, that's a great one, right? You don't have to turn, you just go straight ahead as slowly as you possibly can, right? And keeping your feet on the pegs. U-turns, S-turns, getting the feel of that bike as the weight transfers and whatnot. And accelerating, you're probably good on. You probably don't need to work on that. You probably don't need to work on quick stops or emergency type braking. You probably just pick that up and hopefully not hit whatever it was that pulled out in front of you. But it wouldn't hurt. And you may amaze yourself how quickly that, if you've not worked on that, really how much you can put into, how much braking effort you can put into the bike, and how quickly you can stop it, and squeezing that front brake, not just like slamming the car brake on, really just working that, getting that weight transfer, getting more and more available traction for your front tire. But starting to wrap the video up, this is downtown Clemson. Again, this is SC93 end-to-end on the 883R. Please remember to do the YouTube thing. And until next time, 2 wheels down. Thanks, guys.